Hey everyone, welcome to today's Todd Talk Leadership Podcast. I'm Todd Marshall Hernsberger, the host here for this podcast. I'm also the founder of Leadwell Solutions, which is a coaching and consulting business for business organizations and leaders. So today I'm so happy to have on a great friend. Rob, we've been friends for what, 30 years?
Yeah, a
A
long
long time,
time.
my friend. We have been
Yep,
great friends for multiple decades, and we have done so much together in ministry.
yep.
You have pastored for how many years?
28 years.
28 years of being mainly a lead pastor, right? Most
Hmm.
of those years. And
Yep,
we have done ministry together. You've come preached at my church multiple times. We've preached at youth camps together.
yep.
We've done a lot, my friend.
Oh, yes, we have.
We've stayed at each other's houses when we were together in town with each other, and so we just go back a long way, and boy, do we have stories.
Oh my God, we have stories. And we even did some things in the marketplace together.
We did, absolutely. We certainly did. And so this
Oh,
podcast is deals with all things leadership. The good, the bad, the ugly. And
that,
that's what we're going to be talking about today is obviously leadership. And I wanted to have you on, Rob, to kind of glean from a lot of the personal experiences you've had as a ministry leader. And we kind of talked offline about what does that look like for ministry leaders, especially with church pastors or parachurch ministry leaders that really run their ministry more like a CEO rather than having a servant's heart? They don't run it as much as a ministry as they do a business. And of course, there's a business side
yeah,
to running churches and running parachurch ministries and running Christian organizations, obviously, nonprofits. But there's a different feel that Christian organizations should have when it comes to leadership and not so much run it such like a business with the people, but be more of a servant leader in their capacity. So let's talk about today. That's going to be our topic today, everyone.
well, we're going to have fun with that topic because
Absolutely.
Todd, I've been around. There's nothing I have not experienced or seen, and I'm on a different side of the pendulum now. I have a different perspective of things, and part of my heart even today is helping ministry leaders and helping pastors to think differently and lead differently than the direction and the peer pressure that's on ministry leaders today. And there's a problem if our churches, when we go into our churches or we work for these churches, and there's no difference between Apple and Google and Target and the church.
Mm.
Okay? The calling, I believe, of the church is to be a family first. Not what we have been trained today. And I know there's pressure on ministry leaders to get more people, to get more money, so we can get more people, so we can have more money. And I get that, and but it changes the perspective of what Jesus intended for what the church is supposed to be about. And I believe if we look at Jesus unfiltered in the Gospels, he's the prime example of what ministry leaders, marketplace leaders, pastors ought to live and ought to operate by. All right,
Yeah,
and we're not seeing that today.
right.
We are really not. I've got friends. I know pastors who some refuse to do funerals, who refuse to do hospital calls.
Wow.
Who sure as heck don't want to counsel anybody anymore. And
They don't
or
want to get in the
offer.
trenches with the people. They want to stay in the penthouse of their office or green rooms. Do you see that?
That's that. I
Not every pastor ministry leader, but
no,
a good
but
percentage of them in
a
today's
good
culture.
percentage. And the idea is how many can serve me?
Mm.
When the opposite is how many can we serve? And, I thought about this a long time ago. I believe a new mindset for ministry leaders and even marketplace leaders needs to be three things: serve, help, and care. You
That's
know,
so
that,
good.
that's that's the bottom line. We're to serve people, we're to help people, we're to care people. Now, somebody on Fox News yesterday was talking about the sermon that was preached by the woke liberal
Yes.
bishop yesterday.
Yes,
And
the woke
what,
bishop.
yeah, and what she said was not bad, but she took an opportunity to make a political statement,
You made a
and
platform out of that.
she made a platform when she should have just been there to encourage and pray. And so here's what happened. I mean, she made that statement about the LGBTQ. Everybody's afraid. Transgender people are afraid, and they're
Yep.
really not. Because if you look at the current president's past, he did more for those groups of people than any other president over the years. But she took that spot to cut and slam. And I know sometimes we can get in that way. And the Fox News contributor said, well, Christianity is about behavior. And we got to follow the rules. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, no, you have totally missed what Christianity is really about. But the reason why that mindset is there is because we have ministry leaders that get in the pulpit and they're just constantly barging the people for behavior modification,
Mm.
and that's not what we're called to do. I can't change anybody's behavior.
Yeah.
I can love, I can serve, I can care, I can share the word, I can
Right.
pray. But so I think there's a lot of confusion today, Todd. I really do.
So it seems like so my philosophy in leadership, especially when it comes to the ministry world, um, is that most of the time in the secular workforce, it's kind of like a triangle, where the CEO, the president is at the top, the tip, and then all of the people are underneath them, and it gets wider at the bottom to where everybody is basically serving the one top dog. But in ministry, my conviction is that it should be inconverted, an upside down triangle to where the pastor, the ministry leader's at the bottom, and he's serving everyone above him, which in turn they're helping and serving him in the vision and mission that God's given him. But we live in a backwards kingdom. We do differently as Christian leaders than the secular world does. How do you see that play out in the difference between being a Christian leader and a secular non-believing Christian leader and how they lead?
Well, I was in, I'm in both worlds today. I'm in the marketplace full time, but I'm also in ministry still, and I travel and speak and written books, and so I'm in both worlds. And in one of the fields that I'm in ministry or in the marketplace is real estate. And we had a meeting a couple weeks ago at our real estate office, and we were meeting with our broker, the broker owner of Remax Town Center, and he made a fantastic statement. And he said, I'm here and I'm always here to serve you. And I'm here. And he goes, I work for you. I'm here to help you succeed. And so, whatever you need from me, and I see a
So
lot
right.
of times now in churches and ministries and even other businesses is what they're saying, no, you're here to help me
Right.
fulfill what I need you to do. And you know what? And it's hard to do that. And when you do that, you're pushing people. We're not called to push people. Ministry leaders, marketplace leaders are called to lead people.
Right.
All right. But your motivation has to be pure. Your motivation has to be right. I'm convinced our motivation is two things: love and reconciliation.
Hmm.
And that's Jesus, and that's even the apostle Paul even talks about it. You know what I mean? We've been given the ministry of reconciliation. And so what are we doing to reconcile people and connect them with God? Not to push our agendas and masquerade it as vision. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? The motivation needs to be love. And I know we have to have systems in place. I get that. But
Right.
I believe the systems that we have put in place in ministry has overrode the motivations of
Mm.
what Jesus really wants from us.
Yeah. I've heard a statement before that I really like, and you have to kind of tweak your head at it and think, man, I got to think about that for a second. But it's called leading from behind. Have
Yeah,
you heard of that?
I have. I
Leading where
have.
you're leading people, but you're also behind them supporting the people ahead of you. You kind of play a dual role where you're leading in the front, but you're also leading from behind. And it's like you're that extra support for people. And the way I have always led people in ministry is that I'm here to serve you just as much as you are here to serve me as the
Yeah.
leader of this ministry.
Yeah.
And I think one of the characteristics of someone who have our mindsets is that we are servant leaders and we don't have an ego about our leadership title. We can be a
Right.
leader without having a title, but we are definitely of the mindset and cut out of the cloth that we're here to serve our people as much as we are having them serve us and what God has called us.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You know, I when I started Gracetown, we started as an attractional church, which there's a lot of positives of being an attractional church. You're trying to attract non-church people, and I get it. But one of the things that now it may have changed, but they were teaching us we have to have a target audience, and that's who we're going after. Okay, target audience. No, the marketplace does that. The church is not called to just reach a certain people. My God, we're supposed to go into
Right.
all the world, every aspect of every target audience. You know what I mean? So I remember going, I don't know how to change Jesus's philosophy in the 21st century to just reach only a certain group of people
Right.
when his thing was everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you know, one of the things that I've always tried to do in all the churches that I pastored was to raise up a multi-generational church.
Absolutely.
I wanted young people, I wanted kids, I wanted young families,
All
but yes,
age groups, all
I
colors,
wanted
skin colors.
everybody. I wanted the elders, I wanted every nationality, because
Absolutely.
that's what heaven looks like. But I
Hmm.
think now we're just so honed in on that. I remember being told, if you have anybody on your platform older than 35, you need to get them off the platform.
Wow. Yeah.
And I thought, well, I've got some gifted musicians that are over 35. Why
Yeah.
would I do that? Well, you know, if you've got a target audience of young people, you want young people up on the stage. I get that. All right. But you know what? No, I am not going to get rid of certain age groups in my church because they don't fit the target audience. Here's what I believe unconditional welcome and acceptance should be what we're trying to get in the church, in the ministry. If not, it's bigotry, it's fear, and it's exclusion. And the truth of it is, Jesus wasn't any of that. The church needs to be about inclusion, not exclusion. Who are we going to exclude?
Hmm.
No, it's who are we going to include? Who are we going to bring to the table?
Right.
You know, I remember I would do communion every month. And in our church, communion was open to everybody. Okay. And I remember I had a ministry leader, Todd, come up to me and say, "Hey, we need to talk." You know, when you're a pastor and you have somebody like that comes up and says, "Hey, we need to talk," you know, it's
You
not
know it's
good.
coming. Something's coming.
Yeah. And I went, "Well, what are we going to talk about?" "Well, I'll just tell you when we get together." You know
Uh,
what I mean?
I
You know,
hate that.
cancel the appointment, you
Yeah.
know, and let
Yeah.
him go. But I did, and there was a great concern. He goes, I am bothered by the fact that you serve communion to everybody, and everyone's welcome to the altar." And I said, "And what's the problem with that?" And he said, "No." He said, "You need to fence the table. You need to put a fence so that only people who are saved can take communion."
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, oh, that's what Jesus did, right? Jesus only allowed certain people have the Lord's Supper. No, he let everybody, even knowing Peter was going to fail, even knowing Judas was going to fail,
Yeah.
he still ate with them. He still did communion with them. Okay. Yeah, they wanted me to fence the table. Another situation, another church I pastored, we were having a revival of young people coming to church. And our Wednesday night youth service was bigger than our adult service. Our youth pastor was just killing it. And
Hmm.
we were bussing in kids, but I had a staff member, staff pastor come up and said, "Hey, I don't like this idea all these unchurched young people that were bussing in on Friday night. I'm afraid they're going to influence our church kids and
Mm,
it's going to go the opposite. I'm like, what?
mm,
I'm thinking, you're telling me you want us to stop bussing in unchurched kids because you're afraid they're going to influence the church kids?
yeah.
What the heck are we what are you doing? Why are you even in ministry? Had another situation where when I was pastoring this church in Tennessee, where I connected with a lot of unchurched people. That's one thing ministry leaders don't do today. They're
Mm,
they're friends, or maybe a couple people in the church and other ministry leaders or other pastors, and they don't know how to connect with people that don't go to church. And they sure as well do not want to be friends with them, because what will that look like? And so I became friends with some business owners in the community. One, he ran a bar and a restaurant, and the other one ran a tattoo place. And so I started becoming their friends, um, and they started coming to church, which was incredible. And they didn't, not only did they come to church, but their staff came to our church. Their
mm-hmm.
employees. I remember going to Big Daddy's in Tennessee and picking up pizza one Friday night. We do Friday night pizza there every day. And you had to have your driver's license to get in, because it was also a bar. And the bouncer said, "Oh, hey, Pastor Rob, I know who you are. You can go in." And he said, "By the way," he goes, "I was at church Sunday and I didn't see him." He said, "But I've never cried that hard in my life." And he said,
Wow.
I want you to know I gave my heart to the Lord when you prayed."
Wow.
All right. So I
Wow.
walk in, and his waitresses were called Big Daddy girls. Okay. And when I walked in, they're like, "Pastor Rob," and so they all came and they said, "Church was awesome Sunday." We were seeing life change with them.
Oh.
And then I had another staff member say, "Hey, I think, we're going to get a reputation here in the community with certain people coming to our church, and we need to do away with that. And
Mm.
Pastor Rob, can you ask them not to come here?"
Wow.
Todd, there's no exaggeration to what
What
I
a
just said.
question.
What are we
What a
supposed to be as
mindset. That's amazing.
what a mindset. We're supposed to be servants. We're supposed to care for people and love people. And I think we forget that. I think leaders forget that. We mistreat staff members. We treat them as, "You're replaceable. If you don't like what my rules are,
So
then get
true.
out, because I'll replace you tomorrow."
And I want to say that this is only for a small group of pastors. This is not a
Oh yeah.
majority. We have so many great pastors that don't believe this, but they're the few
Hmm.
that are enough to be noticeable. So go ahead and continue,
Well,
because you're on a good
I
path
think I
here.
think we should challenge that small group to
Yeah,
change, because if they're
absolutely.
if they're still breathing, they're still, because they can change. I believe people
Well, they
can
have to
change.
first be identified first, and they've got to realize I'm doing this, and this is not really good, and they can't change what they don't know.
Right, right. And I know as ministry leaders, we were constantly changing vision and changing how we did things, because that church is doing that. So if we do what that church does,
Right,
oh my gosh, we're going to get the results they get. And that's not true, because you can do everything that everybody else is doing and still don't get the results.
right,
We have to be true to Christ.
right,
We're the body of Christ. Here's where I think the church has messed up. We are to function as a family, not a club, not a corporation.
right. Not a membership.
No,
Even though churches
priority,
have
boom.
memberships, and I get that for legal stuff and get
Right.
in voting, but it's not the church is not a club, a membership club.
No, no. And you know what? And I know we're concentrating on building bigger churches and bigger temples, but the truth of it is we need to build bigger tables.
Mm,
I think if we're
wow.
just inviting and caring and loving people and connecting them to the church,
Mm,
the church will grow.
yeah.
Ministries will grow. We don't need to build bigger fences. No, we need to build bigger tables. Who can
That's
we
so good.
invite and bring to the table, you
Yeah,
know? And it starts with leadership. It really starts with leadership. As an example, you
absolutely.
know, I was usually the last one to leave the church because I stayed and talked to people. You
Mhm.
know, I know leaders that when church is over, they're in the green room. From the green room, they're out the door
Yeah.
to the
We
restaurant.
call those green room pastors.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I have worked, and you know who I'm going to be referencing, and I'm not going to mention names here, but I have worked for a mega pastor that
yep,
he was untouchable. Matter of fact, I was on the pastoral team and had very little connection with him as one of the pastors that served underneath him. And they're green room pastors. And,
yeah,
and
and it's
I don't get that mindset of how you can,
no.
that's more of a business CEO mindset. I'm up here, you're down there, you serve me, and you make me look good.
Well, and it's under the guise of we got to protect the anointing.
Yes,
No,
yes.
listen, you put your pants on the same way as I do. You are a man, you are a human. So, you know what? And everybody's anointed. All right. When you treat the church like a family, it connects. It connects. So, in that, the way it's done, it turns strangers into friends.
Yeah.
And so I want to challenge the ministry leaders in the churches today to build the bigger table, get people. You know what? Instead of focusing on making our church services perfect, what if we started focusing on church dinners?
Hmm.
What if we started focusing on eating together? If you
So
look in the
building
Gospels,
relationships, you're saying, creating relationships, which is what Jesus
100%
did.
is what Jesus
He
did.
ate
If
with the
you
sinners.
That's all he did. Everything in the Gospels, especially Luke. Luke was a foodie for some reason. And every time he's talking about Jesus, Luke 5, Jesus is eating with the tax collectors and sinners at the home of Levi. Luke 7, he's anointed at the home of Simon the Pharisee during dinner. He feeds the 5,000 in Luke 9. Luke 11, he decides to condemn the Pharisees and the teachers while they're eating a meal. Listen, if
Wow.
we listen, more problems can be solved
Mm-hmm.
when we eat together.
Mm.
Look at world leaders. When there's issues in the world, guess what they do when they get together? They have a meal.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have a meal. We watched the Reagan movie the other day. Trish and I did, and when Reagan was, trying to tear down communism, and he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Prior to that, he had met with Gorbachev, and every time they met for a meal. They're
Mm-hmm.
eating and they're discussing and they're debating and they're kind of arguing and then they're getting on the same page. And I remember what he did when they finished the one meal, they didn't get anything resolved. And Reagan got up and said, "Mikhail, let's go for a walk." And they went for a walk, drinking a cup of coffee, going for a walk, and was solving. And that's when the Soviet Union fell
Mm-hmm.
and their government changed.
Yeah.
Why? Because they had a conversation. He didn't get preached at. He didn't get yelled at. They had a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's what needs to happen in the ministry world today, in the marketplace world today. Life moves at the speed of relationships. It
Yeah.
really does. We've always been taught
It
that.
does. Absolutely.
And one of the things I've always tried to do in ministry was network. And now I'm networking in the marketplace. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, that's the key. But you've got to be approachable. You've got to be kind. You've got to serve. You've got to care. And your motivation, it has to be love.
Yeah. So
So,
good. I remember, I know we're telling personal stories here because really, if it's a personal story to us, I mean, there's authenticity to what we're saying here. But I worked for few pastors where I was in supporting pastoral roles of church leaders that were kind of like, I'm the boss, I'm the visionary, I'm the founder here. I want you to stop everything you're doing when I show up on the scene and help me do what I need to do, and then you can get back to your work. And there were times when we had deadlines to meet and we were trying to get things accomplished. And as soon as we were told that a certain leader was on the campus, everybody started tensing up like, oh no, they're here. We need to get prepared. I better stop what I'm doing because I know once they show up, they're going to want me to stop what I'm doing and do this and do that and do it on their timeline, forgetting the fact that we have other responsibilities. And
Yeah.
that mindset, Rob, has really rubbed me the wrong way for many years because I want to be a leader of opposite that. I want people when I walked on campus of that church and walked in that building that the staff was excited to see me as their pastor.
Yep.
Have
Yep.
you ever encountered situations like that in some of the
Oh,
situations or I've heard stories of other people that have gone through this as well. Do
yeah,
you have stories like that?
I've worked with two ministry leaders like that. And, every time I was in their presence, it was nothing but tense. And, oh no, what did we do wrong now? What were they pissed off about? Because we're going to hear it. Oh yeah. And you know what? That's dysfunctional leadership. And you know that. You wrote the book on it. And yes, and it's a great book, by the way, Todd. So it's dysfunction, and we're living in. If the society we live in is dysfunctional, we're not called to be dysfunctional leaders. We need to be a functional leader, you
Absolutely.
know, and that's doing the opposite of what the dysfunction society does,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's what kind of leader I wanted to be. When I was around, I wanted to be I want to be loved than feared. But I've had conversations with ministry leaders. They're like, I don't care if nobody loves me. They better fear me though.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
Not caring
I
what,
remember Jesus never doing that in his leadership style.
no, no, not at all. And so one of the things I tried to do with my teams and my staffs was have what we'd had sandpaper conversations.
Hmm.
And, I wanted to hear what I didn't want to hear.
Hmm.
If there was something I was doing that I wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
And even down to the idea we would do multiple services. And after the first service, I'd grab three or four of my staff and we'd go back into the green room or the office and, okay, what do I need to fix and change?
Wow. That's
And stuff that I thought was good. They were like, listen, boom, and if you can you cut 5 minutes, 10 minutes off and I'm like, absolutely. And those are hard conversations because as leaders, we don't want anybody to tell us what to do.
right. Right.
We're going to tell everybody else what to do,
Right. Right.
you know,
Like little
and
bit, we're on a stick.
yeah,
Right.
100%. And so
So
that's what I want to challenge leaders
yeah,
today.
I think what we're doing here, and that's the purpose of these podcasts, is to bring awareness to some of these issues that's going on in organizations, whether no matter whether they're Christian or not. Of course, my ministry, my calling is to help with Christian organizations and to focus on that because I will always bring, God into everything that I do when it comes to leadership. But I used to have what we call sharpening the saws. And these were very similar to your sandpaper moments, to where I would tell my staff in advance, okay, and I did this about once a year with everyone privately, in a private setting. I would say, okay, you're going to come to this meeting and I want you to tell me everything that you love and that you don't like
Mm-hmm.
about this ministry. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's about me. I don't care if it's about who. If everything is said here is done in private and confidentiality, and it's a no judgment zone. I want to know what you are feeling. I want to
Yeah.
know how you are doing in your home life. Is it affecting your work life? And is the work here affecting your home life,
Mm-hmm.
your marriage? I want to know that. I'm here to help fix the problem if there are any. And so that was shocking to a lot of my staff when I'd say, okay, we're going to have a sharpening the saw moment. We're going to sharpen our saws together, but I'm going to sit here as the leader and I'm going to take constructive criticism, even if it's for me. And I want to hear it because when we improve ourselves, we all become better as a team. So your sandpaper meetings that you had is along the same philosophy, and that's a different way of leading.
You know what? I had a pastor that I worked for one time make a great statement to me about criticism, and he was encouraging me to be open to criticism, whether nobody likes criticism, Todd.
Yeah.
We get offended, we get balled up, we don't want to hear it. Then we spiritualize everything and say, "You don't. I'm the man of God. You don't have any right to criticize me." And then we'll quote some scripture out of context: "Touch not my anointed, and do my
Yeah.
prophets no." Crap like, come
Yeah.
on. But he said this. He said, when you're criticized, he said, remember this: 2% of what you're hearing is probably true, and you need to take that into consideration. You know,
There's
I
another saying that I heard that says the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats.
see.
And I think you have
Yeah,
to be careful as Christian leaders who you take criticism from, because not
yeah,
everybody is going to have the right kind of criticism, and you need to realize who are the ones in the cheapest seats giving the loudest boos.
yeah. Well, and that's so true. And I just think we need to be leaders need to be gracious with people who fail. I mean, John Maxwell said God uses everybody who fails because there's no other kind of person.
Mm.
And I think we have had leaders throw people out the door because of failure or mistakes or stuff like that. And we need to be more gracious and open and inviting with people, and just to have that mindset. And then it goes back to Jesus' ministry: serve, care, love, minister. Jesus didn't come
Passion.
to be served; he came to serve,
Right.
and he's the example.
Hmm.
He's the example. I'm on, I read all kinds of books, but one book I just picked up yesterday, and I've got a few of them. Going through my goal this year was to read nothing, as far as theology is concerned, nothing but Jesus.
That's good.
Historic books on Jesus. What was he like? How did he operate? What was his heart? What did he do? And I know if we read the Gospels, we can see that. All right. But that's the kind of person, first and foremost, not leader, not business leader. I just want to be a person who that's who people can see in me.
So good.
And yeah, I fail. Yes, I make mistakes, but you know what? We're going to get through this, and the people that's around me are going to fail and make mistakes and make dumb decisions. And I want to treat people like they're not irreplaceable, like they're not replaceable. I
So
want to treat people in my life that I need you. I want you. Okay, you made a mistake. You said this. You talked about me. I was told this years ago. You forgive too quickly. Ain't that a great thing? I'm
wow, that's
like they
awesome.
were like they were attacking me. Like I shouldn't forgive too quickly.
Hmm.
What? That's what Jesus said we're to do. You know, so that's our challenge. On this podcast today, just to have leaders in the marketplace, leaders in ministry. Todd, you know what? Let Jesus be your example, not the big church down across town or in
What
that
a
certain
novel
state.
idea.
Yes, they do good and they're doing good and they're killing it, and thousands of people are coming to their church. Life change is happening. But you know what? My example needs to be Jesus. Jesus in the ministry world, Jesus in the church world, Jesus in the marketplace. You
Yeah.
know, I heard something when I got involved in the marketplace and in business. I heard this: solve somebody's problem and you'll be successful in business.
Yeah. I've heard that too. So good.
Let's just solve problems.
Well,
If people are coming to these leaders with issues that they needed, they're wanting them to help them solve a problem.
mhm,
So meet them,
absolutely.
go
That's
to
what
the
it's
hospital,
all about.
pray for them, lay your hands on them. You
Yes.
know,
Be a support to them.
yep.
Well, we're almost out of time here, and I know the people who needed to be watching this is going to watch this. God's going to ordain your step. If you're watching this, God has orchestrated you to be here for this time to watch this podcast and to listen to this podcast. So take it to take it to your spirit, to what God is talking to you through this podcast, through what Rob and I are saying. So, Rob, kind of tell people how they can find you, how they can get a hold of you. You've got some books out. Your daughter also has got a book out, which she's getting
Yeah,
married in 2 months. We're going to see
yeah,
be for the wedding for that. So, how can people
awesome.
get a hold of you, and what do you have for us?
You know what? I want everybody to know when I get invited to come speak at a church or a company, I come for one reason. I come to lift up, I come to encourage, I come to build their faith, give them hope. That's my place. So when they invite me to their church, and I go to many churches over the years, that's what I do. I'm going there. I wrote my latest book is Your Ultimate Comeback: How to Get Up When Life Knocks You Down. And I know about getting
Great
knocked
book.
down. Thank you, by the way.
Great book.
My old book was Divine Strategies for Success, just basic principles of success in life. And then my daughter Emily is a youth pastor in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and she's a speaker and author. And it's called "There's More to Your Story. If it's not good, then God's not done."
Yeah.
And
I
it's
haven't read that book, but
fabulous.
I want to read that book.
You got to read it. She started writing it when she was 15,
Wow.
and yeah, and
She's getting ready to get married here soon.
and she's getting ready to get married. But listen, I would love to connect with pastors that are watching this. I'd love to come to your church and just strengthen you, encourage your church, and uplift them. They can contact me. Go to my website robyanok.com or email me at rob@robyanok.com or my cell phone 614-312-5388. But I know you'll have that listed
I'll
on
put
there.
all that on the screens here and in the comments in under the YouTube channel. So yes, we'll get you all that information and how to reach out.
Yeah, yeah, and I would love to connect and go to some places that I've never been before. And 2025 is I'm getting calls now, and so reach out to me. I would love to spend some time with them.
Yes, you need to have him if you can get him in. If you want more information about my ministry and my organization called Leadwell Solutions, you can go to toddmarshallhernsberger.com. I know it's a mouthful, but there it is. I'll also have it on the screen. You can go there. You can find out more about my book called The Dysfunctional Leader. And anyway, Rob, thank you so much for being here. I want to have you back again sometime in the future. You have so much
Absolutely,
to
Todd.
say, so much to give here in this on this subject of Christian leadership. And so we want to thank all of you for being on this podcast. If you will please go like, subscribe. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, which we still have, by the way, and Facebook. All of those.
Yeah,
And you go to ToddTalk.Leader. That's the handle for all of those. Social media apps, you can find me. And anyway, everyone have a great day. Go and be better, think better, and all especially lead better. Take care, everyone. God bless. Thanks, Rob.
you're welcome, Todd. Bye, everybody.